There we go. Welcome to Tuneagers. I am super excited for our special guest today. Very briefly, Tuneagers is an online global songwriting club for teens. We are currently in about 6 different countries. We are ages 12 to 17. Our goal and mission is to find our voice and write original music. We meet weekly in live workshop sessions to learn about music and songwriting and work on our own songwriting. Twice a month, we have awesome special guests in the music industry, as well as teen-related subjects like today with Livi Redden. And once a month, we meet to do a live showcase and practice and perform and take critiques on our work. You can find more information at teenagers.com, which I'm going to put this in the chat here, as well as there is our website, as well as our current membership, which is a monthly subscription, is discounted for January. That is not time blocked on the end. It is 25% off with this link. If you are interested, save that link and you will get a discount ringing in the new year. You can read about us there at tuneagers.com. Our special guest today is Livi Redden. She is a TEDx speaker and youth mentor. She has written a book entitled, it's a long title, The Sooner You Know, the Better. Dear teens and 20-somethings, it's time to fully face your fears about the future and embrace who you are. She is a podcaster. I could even say influencer, youth speaker and mentor, here to talk with you, give you practical advice, talk about real issues that are facing teens, relay personal stories. Most importantly, we are creating a safe space to talk and have dialogue today and make a meaningful connection. So the session will be what you make of it. If during the process you hear her talk about something that piques your interest or you have specific teen-related questions, please do not shy back from raising your hand and asking them or putting them in the chat. You can read more about Livi here on her website. And if you want any other thing, Livi, you're going to have to throw it up in the chat. But this is Livi's website. She does do teen mentorship sessions. Without further ado, here is Livi Redden. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me, y'all. Also just on the topic of team mentorship, I am actually at capacity currently. However, if you go to the website, it'll give you, there's a lot of other links there if you're interested in the podcast or my book or to watch the TED Talk. That's all on the website, so you can find that on there. But yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a author, podcaster, speaker, and my whole mission is really helping young people live in alignment. And I think so often we are not provided, and really historically, it has not been emphasized the importance of emotional skills, the exploration of oneself. And, there is reasons to that to an extent where humans at a core basis need to survive. However, emotional skills are such a core piece to our survival as a species and our ability to interact with one another and express ourselves. And today, some of the things that I'm going to be sharing, some things you may have already heard before that would be good reminders, and other things can hopefully give you some insights and give you a chance to self-reflect. And so as far as what I would ask of everyone here today is just trying to be fully present. And, as Amy mentioned, if you have any questions as we go, feel free to use that little hand thingy, hand reaction, raise hand thing. Also, more than anything, I want to make sure you're not listening to what I'm saying, but you're listening to what you're saying. What I say, what it brings up in you. And so instead of writing things down or remembering things that I said, I want you to notice what comes up in your body and in your mind and how it relates to you, because those are the important insights, not necessarily what I'm saying. Um, and so I want you to note those things as they come up in your body. Um, and so before we go in, I do this at the beginning of any workshop I run, and I make people take deep breaths because we need those. So if everyone wants to just turn off their video for a moment, I just ask that you take a moment I'm going to lead you in a quick box breath. I have people turn off their video because I think it makes it a little bit more comfortable. But if you haven't done a box breath before, essentially all you're doing is breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, and breathing out through your mouth for 4 counts. And if you could just do that 3 times to kind of bring yourself in the present moment and also just calm your body a little bit. And again, that's in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and out for 4 counts. And then I'll bring us back in and have us turn our cameras back on. And once you've taken those breaths, feel free to come back in, and hopefully that could kind of ground you a little bit, as I know we're kind of in the middle of the day and it can be a little chaotic. And then while everyone comes back in, I'm going to share my screen. I want to make today as interactive as possible, so I'm going to be asking people to participate throughout, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. There we go. Perfect. Oh, well, maybe not so perfect. There we go. Move this. Can everybody see that okay? Good.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Sometimes I've had issues, especially Amy, if there's any issues with me starting to cut out as I'm presenting, just let me know.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Anyways, hi, Livy. This is me. This is also my Instagram. If you have any interest in following me on there, any other workshops I do, I'll also be launching a new community in the next coming month or two. So if you're interested in that, you can just go follow me on there. I put all my updates out on Instagram stories mainly. And just to hop into things, I thought quite a bit today about what I wanted to talk to this group about specifically, considering this is such a creative group of people. And I think with creatives, you also have a group of people that have a lot of depth and a lot of things to say and express. Um, and I really find that as I talk to specifically young people about the things that, there's 3 core things that tend to stop us from our self-expression and the things that we want to share with the world. And I work a lot of young people through these blockers because not only does this stop us from expressing ourselves creatively, but it stops us from expressing ourselves in our relationships. It stops us from expressing ourselves in our day-to-day interactions. And I think that's a hard thing to kind of figure out when we're young, like what our authentic self-expression looks like, and what actually are the things that are we expressing that authentically, and how do we even know? And so I want to talk about three core blocks of self-expression. And I think these can be applied to your creative endeavors, but also just your day-to-day life. And so the first one I want to talk about is that specifically when it comes to creative work, is that it's cringe. And I know you see a lot of people talk about this on social media, but really the price of if you're someone that wants to make your creative expression a career, or even something that you just want to put out into the world and have it reach people, the price is cringe. Really is. Just for like a short example, I'm a big believer in, if anything you put out on the internet starts gaining a lot of traction, of not reading too many comments. But even just last night as I was preparing for this, I was reading a few comments under my TEDx, and you have people saying, her outfit sucks and she doesn't know what she's talking about. And then you have people saying, there was a 25-year-old that left a comment a few days ago and said, I watched this talk a year ago and I applied to uni today because this advice came back up in my mind and now I want to go back to school. And so it's the price is judgment and the price is cringe. And I think that's really just a universal experience. And I have this photo of Billy Joel here. I love Billy Joel. He was very informative in my childhood and a big part of the music that I listened to growing up. Is he the best human being on the planet? Debatable. But as far as his music goes, I really love Billy Joel. And this is a picture I took. We went to the Rock and Roll Museum in Chicago. This was kind of his little ode to him in there, and his notebook down on the right of him writing his lyrics. And the reason why I have this picture for the topic, as far as things feeling cringe, I expressed this to Amy as we were kind of talking about what I wanted to go through today. And one of my favorite songs of Billy Joel is "She's Always a Woman to Me." And that song he's publicly spoken about over and over again, how cringe he feels that song is. He doesn't like singing it. He doesn't know why people like it. But it was such an authentic expression. He had met this woman that he was so in love with in his early 20s, and it was such an authentic expression at that time of his soul and who he was. And I really believe that that's why people connect with it. And now that he's older, even if it is cringe to him and cheesy, I think that authentic expression is noticed, and that passion comes through, and that's why people like it. And so even on like the most iconic levels, people look back at their creations and they're like, oof. Even I go through chapters in my book and I'm like, that's a tough read for me. But it resonates. And so that first piece is really just the acceptance of the cringe and being willing to be perceived as cringy. And then the second blocker that I notice a lot of people go through, I'm going to talk about SZA, and I love SZA. I think she's a credible artist, and I've watched a lot of her interviews, and she's talked a lot about in her interviews about being self-critical, and that's kind of the second piece of this, and just really the continual feedback of it's not good enough. And I can't put it out because it's not good enough and it needs to be better. And, she said in an interview that much of her music, she doesn't go back and listen to anymore because she's outgrown those versions of herself. It just doesn't really resonate anymore. In a lot of interviews, she's talked about, she'll go back and listen to music and she's like, my voice isn't right. The mix isn't right. And And regardless, another example where even on the highest level, we will still experience those voices of it's not good enough and it's not perfect enough. And really, it's a matter of putting it out anyway, and expressing yourself anyway, even if you're not putting it out publicly. When you're putting pen to paper, or when you're writing something, or painting something, or creating something, um, it's that's such a human thing, and to judge what comes out of you authentically is it's it'll block you from a lot of exciting experiences and fulfillment as you go about your day to day. And so that second piece is really just being willing to put it out, even if it isn't perfect. And this last one I wanted to talk about I wanted to give a personal example. And it was when I gave my TED Talk. I had, since I was a teenager, I had a vision of wanting to do a TED Talk. And they were, I listened to a lot of TED Talks, and they helped me through a lot of difficult periods of my life, actually. And the opportunity arose much sooner than I expected. And so this third blocker that I find comes up for people a lot is that I'm not ready, and that I can't do it, really. And so when the opportunity arose for me, um, I remember very viscerally sitting in my living room. What had happened was the organizer of the event someone had given him a copy of my book and was like, "Hey, I think this would be a great speaker for this event and the theme you're doing." And so they contacted me to be a speaker at this event, and it was so much sooner than I was expecting. Um, and I remember very viscerally sitting on my couch, and I was typing out an email telling them that I couldn't do it and that I wasn't ready to do it. And, maybe come back to me in a year. I'm not ready right now. And my roommate came out of my room, and she was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just telling them I can't do the TED Talk. I don't feel ready for it." And she was like, "So we're not going to do that. And you're going to sit back down, and you're going to delete that email, and you're going to write the TED Talk." And so I did, in fact, not email them, did not email them. And now this TED Talk has become one of the most viewed TED Talks ever delivered specifically for people in their young adult lives. And it's a perfect example. It's a perfect example that all of us will go through these moments, and really the deciding factor is, do you persevere through those voices anyway? And I think that's also a good example of why it's helpful to have people in our lives that act as bumpers, that can kind of keep us from gutterballing it. It can keep us in the lane and get us to exciting moments like this. And so before I have two key pieces I wanted to share as far as how we can work ourselves through when these thoughts come up, that it's cringe and it's not good enough and I'm not ready enough. Before I go to those, I was just curious. I would love for someone to share is if, as I'm expressing these different individuals and my own experience, I'm curious if anyone has had an experience like this recently or throughout their lives, where you have these thoughts have come up and you were able to push through it anyway, or even a project you're working on right now and some of the thoughts that have been coming up as you're doing that. I would love if anyone would be willing to share. If you could just raise your hand. Sorry, I can't see the. Amy, could you pick someone? It's not showing me my.
I
Sorry.
think if you end share screen, I think you'll be able to see.
Oh, here we go. I can see people now. There we go. Yeah, Rain, if you could unmute and give us your thoughts.
A lot of times, especially with music, I'll make a song and I do like pour my heart out into my lyrics, and then it's just like there's a little something off, so I just forget about it. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I need to make something more catchy, more up to like how the music industry is going now. So it'll go viral or it'll get more views and stuff like that. Um, but then I'll go back to the same exact song like months later, and I'll be like, why did I stop working on this? Like, this was really good. And sometimes I just, maybe in the moment, I don't see it or hear it or feel it, but I came to a conclusion that I need to have more self-confidence in what I write and the music that I make so I can move forward with what I'm feeling. And it doesn't matter if it's not up to today's music industry standard. I should still post it. I should still express my feelings and share my music with the world.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And it's I see people shaking their heads as you're saying that, because it's especially like you're saying with the music industry, there's such a wait for things to be like viral enough or digestible enough. But then you do have so many creatives that talk about how that's such a detriment specifically to musicians. And really it's a tough balance. And but I do feel the audiences that we want to attract will find us when we go about it in a way that is real to us. Because it's funny, like the realest pieces of stuff I put out that I didn't think was as good was some of the things that I people have connected with the most. Um, and then before I move forward, Jacqueline, I saw that you had raised your hand as well. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I have um I'm kind of stuck in this thing right now. Like I haven't gotten out of it, so like I might need some advice. Like I'm always so scared to put myself out there because I'm so scared what people will think of me. Like they'll think I'm cringy. They'll think like, "Oh my God, she's just trying." And like I'm scared of the embarrassment. And everyone just tells me like, "Oh my God, you want to be a singer? Why don't you put yourself out there?" But I can't. There's something stopping me because I'm afraid of what everyone will say. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the fact that you're willing to say that and recognize that you have fear that there, I think is very mature and exciting. Uh, and I guess my question for you would be, as far as advice, I think sometimes when it comes to fear, which I'll kind of get into in a minute, is that we expect that we'll overcome it. Um, but I think self-expression is scary, and that's okay. I mean, before I gave this TED Talk, the picture that you're saying, they sent me out first, and I was shaking in my boots, y'all. I was scared, and I think the more as you start putting stuff out there, um, the people that love it will find you, and those people will help you keep going. But I think that first step of starting to put it out, um, even if you can put something out and then just like turn your phone off, just like get away immediately, I think that's a great first step, because I think the fear will be there, but I think it gets easier as you go. And uh, I don't think there's kind of a exact remedy for it. It's just a matter as you do it. Like I remember the first time I started posting on TikTok when I was in, let's see, like early 2019. And the first time I had a video viral, I remember just like standing in the shower, just like sobbing. I was so scared. And I remember like calling my mom and being like, there's all these people perceiving me. What's happening? And then as I continued to go, um, it got easier. And so I think really it's just a matter of letting yourself be, you've heard this a million times, letting yourself be scared and do it anyway. I know that's such an annoying thing that you've heard, but it's really true. Um, and I think these next two things I say will also be helpful in regards to that. And I'll do these quickly because I do want to have time to do some question and answer stuff. But um, so yeah, there's as far as these things that block us from our self-expression, what do we do? what do we do about them, and how do we kind of be able to express despite these things? And there's two key things that come to mind. I had two slides and they got deleted somehow, so I'm just gonna talk. But that first one, I think the first piece to kind of being able to overcome these feelings and thoughts that come up is understanding our minds. And this is something I talk about in my TED Talk a little bit, and a lot of the keynotes I do, is recognizing that our minds are survival organisms. And their core function is to keep us alive. And so naturally, and we actually want our brains to provide us with worry and stress sometimes, because there's a lot of times where that comes in handy in regard to keeping us alive as these very like vulnerable human bodies. And so I think that first piece is recognizing that your mind is a survival organism, and however, you are not your mind. And this may just be a reminder for some people, but I think the more you can separate yourself from your thoughts and kind of view them from a third person perspective and really learn to gentle parent your mind, honestly. Life is such a journey of learning how to just be like, it's okay. Thank you for trying to help me. I know you're anxious. I hear you. We're safe. There's so much of that. And so that first piece is not trying to suppress those fears and those anxieties, but come up, but welcome them and understand that that is the function of the mind, and it's okay. And the second piece that I wanted to talk about is, outside of understanding your mind, is returning back to your why as well. Why you like to make music, why you want to create. What are the memories that are associated with doing this thing? How does it make you feel? And something I share about in my TED Talk was that my father's passing when I was a teenager, when I was 17, was a big piece of why I've continued to do what I do, because it reminded me how short life is, and that stayed with me for so long. And why would I spend a life that could very well be cut short not expressing myself in the way that I would prefer? And that was a very formative moment for me. But on top of that, something I haven't spoken on as publicly or as often, I suppose. Even deeper than that is just before I had the idea when I was 18 to write a book. I kind of started playing around and started writing pieces of books when I was like 17 or 18. I took this assessment that his name's Jonathan Fields. He created something called a Sparketype assessment, and he talks about this assessment is supposed to help you self-reflect on why your Sparketype, or the thing that sparks you in the world, what keeps you going, what lights your fire, type of thing. And I took that assessment when I was a teenager, and it said that, and by the way, when it comes to these sort of personality assessments, take them with a grain of salt. I don't want anyone to be heavily labeling themselves, which can be another form of boxing, but the outcome of this assessment was that I was a maker. And the whole idea of a maker is that their spark, the thing that pushes them in life, is to make ideas manifest in whatever form they find interesting. And their makers are very fueled by the process of making and creating. And it's a very core piece of who they are. And I imagine that's a lot of people in this room. And so even deeper than, death giving us a lovely timeline, on top of that, it's who we are. And it's fun. And it's fun to put stuff out, and it's fun to express ourselves. And I think remembering and reflecting on the joy of of the moments that we've felt ourselves in flow as we create these things. That's why we do it. And so, is it's such a human thing to create stuff. And I think returning back to that why and that feeling, on top of, life is short, and I think you should do things that you enjoy, and express yourself, because people want to hear you as well. And you do people a disservice when you don't express yourself in the way that you would like to. And so that's kind of the conclusion in regard to, things that can help you push through those thoughts. And I'm going to pass it over to Amy, because I know she wanted to share one thing before we go into the Q&A, but I did want to ask, if anyone is willing, I would love to hear, you kind of share with the group why you create, sort of whether that is a memory you have associated with it, how it makes you feel, what about it is fun for you, because I think also when we hear other people express that, it can remind us why we do as well. Would anyone be willing to share that? And your answer doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, Laurel.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I create and I write lyrics because it's kind of an out for me. Like I'm really in my head all the time. I spend a lot of time thinking, and it's just like a way for me to almost like organize what I'm thinking about in a way that I understand well enough.
And I like that core piece of what you said at the end there, that it helps you understand. And that's such a cool, I think that's why we have so much fear associated with these types of self-expressions, because we are simultaneously learning to understand ourselves. And then people are publicly going on that journey with us if we're someone that's putting our art out into the world. But what a courageous act to let people view your growth process. And so I really applaud anyone in here that has this desire to share their art as well, because it does take courage. And as much as it is easy for someone to say, well, just put it out and it's fine and you're good. You're so good. Just put it out there. Um, it does require courage, and it requires courage to, sit with yourself as well and put things to paper. Um, and so I respect everybody in this room for wanting to create in a way that is self-reflective and helps them grow in who we are. Because more than anything, it's great that the things we put out can help people, but also what a beautiful thing that it can help us understand ourselves. And really that's the whole journey we're all on. So thank you so much. And Amy, I'll pass it over to you before we go into the Q&A.
Oh, no, it's okay. If there's anybody, I messaged you, but if there's anybody else that would like to follow up on that, and
Oh,
share as well, I think that's more valuable. Yeah.
yeah, if anyone else. Yeah, Jacqueline, go for it.
Okay. So I create because I'm a big people pleaser in general, and a lot of the time I feel like I can't share what's on my mind. So when I write music, I write my lyrics and my melodies, I feel like I can finally say what I've been holding inside me and I couldn't say out loud because I didn't want to hurt someone or I didn't want to tell them how I really felt. So it's a way that I can express myself without actually hurting anyone and just figuring out what I really wanted to say.
I love that. And I'm sure that's such a good feeling and a release.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more like about, could you expound on that a little bit of just like what it feels like once you're able to, if you have anything further to say. Just like once you have it written down, what it's like to go back and read those things and kind of how it feels in your body. And
it feels very freeing knowing that also maybe the person that I thought about is actually maybe at one point will hear the song and I could actually subtly tell them what I felt without actually having to tell them what I felt.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the best feeling of all. Like knowing that you could do something without hurting someone, but making yourself feel better. And does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And um, it's so cool to turn those difficult emotions like that into something beautiful. Because I think it's so easy. It's a very easy thing to turn our discomforts and our anger into hate and violence. And so to choose to outlet it in a way that is beautiful and it doesn't even necessarily need to be kind, but in a way that is real, um, courageous. Again, it's very cool. And did anyone else have any thoughts they wanted to share? Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Can you tell me?
It's Maliki. I was
Malik.
wondering. I was
Yeah.
wondering how you were to say it. I make music because I like listening to music. I like listening, and I like the feeling of like this is a really cool song. Just like that dopamine rush. I don't know if dopamine is the right word, but like that dopamine rush. Uh, and knowing that I made the thing that's giving me the dopamine rush is really cool, and being able to make things that make me feel good is pretty cool. And that's why.
Very cool. Thank you. And I see people shaking their heads, people are smiling as you say that. Because it's so fun to hear all these things that inspire you and then you can like I can do that myself. So fun. And kind of like I said too, because it's fun. Like there doesn't always have to be an incredibly deep meaning either. I think we should be allowed to just have fun, you know? Yeah, Amy.
Mute. I was just going to follow up and say too, on both of those, or all three of them actually, um, similarly, I feel like I'm at when I make things, and I've made music a long time, but still when I'm actually struggling with the song, like maybe I've written a verse, but I don't know where it's going, or I have to choose a certain direction. Like, is this going to be a little more pop friendly, like everybody can sing along, or is it going to be more artsy and cryptic and mysterious? Like, making those choices makes me feel empowered, but also like I feel at my very highest. Like sometimes I get chill bumps when I write, or sometimes I will cry a little when I write, or I walk out of a session and I just feel like no matter what else is going on in the world, like I'm on top of it. Like I'm floating on the clouds. So I think when I focus on that sort of energy of the making of it, then when like a review comes out about a song, it doesn't really matter because I know already, because I went through it. Some people are going to love it and think it's like just as cool as me, and other people are just not going to get it. I mean, briefly, I had my very, very first album, which was an EP. It was 6 songs. It got some decent reviews, right? Not too many, but little sentences here and there that I could pull and like put in a press thing and make a website out of. Then my hometown reviewed it, like this small hometown in East Texas, and they referred to one song and they were like, yeah, and then all of a sudden there's these horns playing. She lost us there. And I was like, oh, that's my hometown. That's like where I live. And I was so like, I still cut it out and I put the review in a folder, but I was so disappointed. And I think that that's when I first realized like, and the song was even about my hometown. So like, that's the first time that I realized like, okay, like you can't please everyone with the song. There's going to be some people that love you and others are going to be like, eh, not so good, not my cup of tea. So I should just focus on like me and the ones that get me. Just kind of let the others hang out where they are.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, Laurel.
So adding on to what I said earlier, it's like I write a lot of like music and I also write poetry because poetry it just makes it really easy to like process feelings like in an artsy way, I guess. And I mean, there's more benefits than that. Like in the future, if I do want to produce it, I have like good raw stuff to go off of. So it's like whenever I am feeling down, I write it out like in poetry or in lyrical, just to like it gives me a way to like structureize the like mess of the feelings that I have.
I love that. And that makes me think of what you're expressing there is that I think I've also kind of talked about, letting these fears and these anxieties kind of wash through us, but at the same time, we as humans desire security and a way to understand the world around us. And I don't think that's a weakness. I think there's a lot of sort of like philosophical content out there that's like you need to overcome and like rise to this level where like nothing bothers you anymore and you don't have to make sense of the world around you. But I think it's very human and normal to find things that give us security and help us make sense. Like the human body and human mind desires that. And however way we find ourselves helps us make sense of it all. I think that's something to explore. And also before, I know we've reached our time, but I was just going to send this out really fast. If anyone is interested, I have two little, if you liked what I shared, I have two little resources, little exercises I was going to send out for anyone that is interested that can kind of help you go deeper in regard to self-exploration and self-expression. And so if you text this number, I'll send it in the chat. I will text those to you. Let me see here. And that should have gotten sent out to everyone. And if you just text that number next step, I'll send those out to you. It'll also add you into, I send out little motivational texts as well. But if you don't want those, once you get you can just say stop and it'll opt you out. But I will send you those two next steps. So
Guys, I'm going to go ahead and follow that up with, if you are new here, I do see some new folks in here. Just a reminder that Tuneagers is a global songwriting, not singer club. It's a global songwriting club for teens 12 to 17 years old. There is 25% off the membership right now. Twice a month we have guest speakers like this come into the club and share and take Q&A with members. And each week we meet live to work on our songs and hang out and collaborate together. So we get teens writing together from around the world. We're new and I'm looking for feedback and would love to talk with you. Guys, I want to say thank you very, very much for tuning in today. Let's give Livi a round of applause, a loud one or a virtual one or a thumbs up.
this is awesome. I love the energy. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. And I'll go ahead and close the meeting. Without further ado, have a lovely rest of your day, guys.
Bye, all.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you
Bye.
so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Miss Amy.
Bye, Rain.